So in the last two videos of Atomic Habits, we understood what are habits, how habits work. We understood all the 4 laws, how habits are created, how habits can be destroyed too using that 4 laws. In this video, we will learn how to use the first law. First law was to make it obvious. You have to make an habit obvious enough so that that habit triggers again and again in your brain. And today we will discuss how to use the first law for creating good habits and also eliminating the bad ones. So the first law states that make an habit obvious enough. So to do that, author has given us two methods. The first method is pointing and calling, and the second method is habit stacking. So first we will discuss about the first method, pointing and calling. Over time, when we repeat a habit multiple times, cues, the triggers eventually gets invisible. You no longer consciously think about the triggers of an habit when you repeat a habit enough times. If a habit remains mindless, you can't expect it to improve. So for that, to make the cues visible to you, to make the triggers visible to you, we can use pointing and calling. So pointing and calling is a method in which before doing any habit, you always point that you are doing this habit. For example, the first thing I do after I wake up is drink some water. So to make it obvious, I can use pointing and calling like this. As soon as I wake up, I am drinking this 1 liter of water bottle. Pointing and calling, makes it obvious that you are doing an habit. Before doing any habit, you point and call. Before recording videos, I can point and call. Like, I'm going to pick up my phone and record videos. That's pointing and calling. You can use that too to make an habit obvious. Pointing and calling is so effective because it raises your awareness about an habit which you do unconsciously and you then do consciously after pointing and calling. The more automatic the behavior becomes, the less likely we are going to think about it. Many of our failures in life are attributed to, less self-awareness. The first and one of the major challenge of improving your habits is to become self-aware of the habits you are doing. And that's why the first method we use is pointing and calling. Through this method, we can now become self-aware of the habits we are doing. So the first method is over. After self-awareing yourself about the habits you are doing daily, make a list of them. Use point and call method to observe your habits. As soon as I wake up, I drink water. Write that. As soon as I wake up, I drink water. The second thing I do is I meditate, so write about that. The third thing I do is I eat lunch, and make a list of that. Make a list of all the habits you do in a day by using pointing and calling. And after that, we will use second method to see if the habits are good enough or bad enough for us. The second method is rate your habits. So after you list all your habits by using pointing and calling, you have to now rate them. And why should we rate them? I will explain it later. First, rate them. If you think your habits are good enough, rate them a plus. And if you think your habits are negative, then rate them minus. And if you think your habits are neutral, you can rate them with is equals to sign. For example, I have made a list for myself. I wake up, I drink some water, which is a good habit, so I'll rate them plus. Then I do meditation, which is also a good habit, so I will rate it plus. After doing meditation, I get myself ready, which is a neutral, so I'll give a neutral. And after getting ready, I use my phone and watch YouTube videos, which is a bad habit, so you rate it minus. After rating all your habits, now you know which are the habits you want to eliminate and which are the habits that you want to keep in your life. So the first law, as states, make your habits obvious. So to do that, we use the first method, self-awareness, and for that we use pointing and calling. Point and call every and each habit you do in a day. After pointing and making the list of the habits you do in a day, rate them. Now you know what are the habits that are bad for you and what are the good ones. Now after observing your habits, we can now introduce some good habits so that you don't do bad ones. For example, after I wake up, I drink water, I do meditation, and I get ready. After that, I use my phone. So there's a time slot that I do that bad habit. So in that time slot, I will, do a good habit instead. For example, in that time slot, I can record videos, which is a good habit. So to introduce new good habits in your life, author has suggested a method, the best way to start a new habit. The method is implementation intention. The method simply states that if you want to introduce a new habit in your life, before doing that habit, you just have to point and call that. The same method we use to self-aware ourselves. For example, I want to introduce a new habit of painting. I want to do painting. Before doing, I will allot a time in my day. For example, I want to paint at 4 p.m. And now how to use this method in this situation. When the clock hits 4 p.m., I am going to paint. This is how we use implementation intention. Before doing any habit, before introducing any habit in your life, you have to set a time, a place, and you have to call that before doing. I will give you another example. Let's suppose I want to introduce the habit of washing my clothes. So I will set a time for it, let's say 10 a.m. and then I'll set a place, which is, where is my washing machine is. Set a time, set a place. Now before doing that habit, call it. As soon as the clock hits 10 a.m., I'm going to wash my clothes in the washing machine. This is how you use the method implementation intention. This is a strategy that you can use after observing your habits, rating your habits. Then you have to do this method, introducing new habits in the slots that you are doing your bad habit. There is another benefit of using implementation intention apart from building new habits, is every time you call and every time you point out your habits, you now know that you have to do that habit and you will do that habit without distractions. There are less distractions because of this method. So let's recap what we have learned till now. You have to do this all methods step by step to improve your habits. First step was become self-aware. For that we use pointing and calling. Observe all your habits and make a list. The first step. The second step is rate all the habits that you have listed. Third habit, in the time slots that you are doing your negative habits, you have to replace them with good habits. And how you can create good habits? The first method is implementation intention, setting a time, setting a place, and using pointing and calling before doing that habit. Now the second method is habit stacking. Habit stacking is a method where we stack all the good habits at once and we perform one after another. For example, I stack my habits like this. After I wake up, I drink some water, 1 liter of water. I do meditation, I get ready, I record my videos, I read my book, and I do gratitude journaling, and then I take a nap. All these habits stacked. I know what to do after a habit gets over. You have to use habit stacking after introducing good habits. And the last and the final method that you can use to introduce new good habits in your life is changing your environment. Environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. Despite our unique circumstances, unique personalities, we tend to do some behavior again and again under certain circumstances, certain environment. By far you already know that visual cues, visual triggers are the most impactful in your life to make an habit obvious. For this reason, a small change in your environment can majorly shift what you do. As a result, it is very important to shape your environment in a way that you always do good habits. For example, if you have an habit of eating junk food, you are more likely to eat junk food when it is around you, it is around your environment. And the same is true for the other side. If there is no junk food around you, you are less likely to eat it. That's how you can use your environment. If you want to study, surround yourself with good environment, with books. If you want to be productive, work in a clean and motivating environment. If you want to make a habit big part of your life, make the trigger of the habit the big part of your environment. Making a better decision is easy when the environment, the visual cues are good and are in front of you. You can alter the places you work. You can alter your places where you meditate for your own good. You can also use environment to eliminate your bad habits. When you change your environment, the subtle triggers, the subtle cues which triggers your brain to perform a bad habit eventually vanishes. When there is no environment, when there is no cue, the habit will not trigger. I know this video was way too long. If you do all these steps that I have mentioned step by step, doing all the things following this video, I'm telling you can make most of the first law, which is making an habit obvious. Step by step, do all these things. You eventually will understand the first law and you will take benefit from that. Atomic Habits is not an easy book to follow. You will fail, you will learn. It's hard to follow along all these steps. But once you start, you will see your life will change gradually. You already know the importance of habits. By changing them, you can change your whole identity. And if you want that, because successful people are not because of luck. They are because of their work and their identity. You can shape your work and shape your identity using your habits. Follow this whole book, follow this whole series, and in the next video I will explain about the second law and I will give you step-by-step methods to follow the second law. Stay focused, stay disciplined, and I'll see you guys in the next video.